Can one single kick save a man's job? We're going to find out this week. The 49ers escape with a win by the skin of their teeth in Tampa Bay. We'll talk about it all next on the Gold Standard Instant Reaction Show. What is good, everybody? Welcome to the Gold Standard Instant Reaction Show here on the Gold Standard and the Fans First Sports Networks. I am Rob Stats Guerrera. Join me in a breath of exhale, of safety, of victory. The San Francisco 49ers escape by the hairs on their chinny chin against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with a 23-20 victory, and they save their season. And Jake Moody may have saved his job after missing not one, not two, but 3 field goals in the game. He nails a 44-yarder by the skin of his teeth, and the Niners escape with a victory. Ooh, baby, join me as I open up this adult beverage. This would have been a hideous loss by the 49ers. A hideous loss. They had all the old hits in this game. Not being able to finish drives in the red zone. Bad special teams play. Brock Purdy looked inaccurate for most of the first half. A defense that can't take a single punch and kind of folds. Nick Bosa was a ghost and made one of the craziest plays at the end of this game that's going to be forgotten now because Jake Moody made that kick. All the bad things about the 49ers showed up in this game, and they still won it. And they still won it. I don't know if I should be encouraged by that or not, but what have I told you that this season is about? This season is about survive and advance if you're the 49ers. There's no style points. I don't care that they should have beaten the Bucs by more. They got the win. At the end of the day, that is all that matters. The 49ers get the win. And 49er Faithful Dave from PA says, I got to say, this was an ugly win that they have been losing. You're right. You're right. They have been losing this kind of game all year. Stephen Duckett, the Niners got to be able to win the grinders. Win your clunkers, right? This was a clunker from the 49ers. You're coming off the bye week. The Buccaneers were coming off a game where they played 80 snaps on defense. This was a clunker by the 49ers. But they won it. Shay says, Moody's unreliable at best. Waltony 101 on Twitch. Survive, slap your kicker in the face in advance. Yeah, Deebo and Tabor Pepper got into it, and Deebo kind of hit Jake Moody too, although, to be fair, I think he was trying to hit Pepper, although I don't know. So they got to get that straightened out. But, man, all the bad things showed up for the 49ers in this game, and they still won it. And you know what? Got to give a little credit to the defense at the end. They stopped Tampa Bay. And there was a hideous sequence with 3 straight penalties on the 49ers defense. 35 yards given up in penalties on that final Tampa Bay drive. It was a 15-yarder, 15-yarder, then a 5-yarder. It was like, oh, my God, we're not even making them earn it to go down the field. But they stopped them in the red zone. They held them to the field goal. And then Brock Purdy came down. And you know what? I agree with Mo Money Man on X, who says Brock Purdy was clutch in the fourth quarter of this game. Brock Purdy was not very good for most of this game, but he made some throws. On the 49ers' last touchdown drive, he made 2 incredible throws to help them get the touchdown. First, he throws this ball, that sort of high ball, the moon ball, to Christian McCaffrey, and McCaffrey makes a fingertip catch for a huge chunk gain. That throw is so hard if you're a quarterback. It's so hard to do that because you're throwing to a spot. And if you don't throw to the right spot, it's going to be a disaster. Could be a pick because the ball is just floating up there. And you had a blitzer in his face, and Brock delivered a dime. And thank you, God, for Christian McCaffrey coming back. Holy hell. And then on the touchdown to Kittle, I mean, that play is all Brock Purdy. He's got the ball for 8.4 seconds as he's scrambling around looking for a guy. And not only does he throw a touchdown, he throws a dot in the back of the end zone to George Kittle for 6. Whoo, man. He was not great. And then the final drive of the game, I mean, that looked, I don't want to say easy, but it kind of did look easy for the 49ers. They get Brock Purdy just hits Jennings on a quick little 6-yarder on the first play. He goes to Pearsall again. How about Pearsall in this game, by the way? We got to talk about that a little bit later. Hits Pearsall twice, back-to-back plays, hits Jennings again. They spike the ball. Like, that was as smooth as a final drive for the 49ers as you want. And they kick the field goal and they win. And like I said, no style points, baby. A win is a win is a win. Let's get to some of your super chats. Real OBJ CDT YouTube channel member says, fire Brian Schneider now, replace Moody in the offseason. Moody may get cut this week. In fact, if he didn't make that kick, he was definitely getting cut. But he may get cut this week. That is, he may have saved his career with that last kick, but it was going to be close. Definitely not that Stephen A. YouTube channel member says, being a fan of this team that refuses to fix special teams, poop emoji. I mean, they were bad. Jacob Cowing, Darrell Luter gets blocked into Jacob Cowing. Hey, Darrell Luter, after what happened in the Super Bowl, you should never let yourself get anywhere near the returner again. After the ball went off your leg in the Super Bowl. That's twice now, man. And that was definitely a turning point in the game to get the Bucs back in it. Andre Garibay says, Kyle regressed as a play caller. He relies way too much on CMC. Run defense is trash. Special teams is pathetic. This team will not win many more games. Look, I understand the frustration, but they won, man. They won. They did all that bad stuff, and they still won the game, and they should have had 9 more points. Jake Moody missed 3 field goals. Now, it shouldn't have come down to that. I agree with you, but if Jake Moody does a job that a normal NFL kicker does, you're at 32 points, excuse me. So, you could sit there and blame the play calling, but if you change none of Kyle's plays in this game and Jake Moody is an average NFL kicker, you put up 32 points, which is exactly what they should have done against this Buccaneers defense. Joey Love says, Bosa saving energy for the inauguration. Jake Moody is a bust. I'll say this about Nick Bosa. I think Nick Bosa was way more banged up than people realized coming into the game. And I think he tried to gut it out. But he was a ghost for much of the game. And Tristan Wirfs, he was getting bodied by Tristan Wirfs. And then Wirfs goes out with the injury, and Bosa's still pretty much a ghost. I know he ended up with a sack. But that play on 4th down, I've never seen a play like that before in my life. I've never seen a play where it's 4th and 7, the opposing quarterback rolls out, and Bosa has him, and he's holding on to Baker Mayfield's arm, and Baker's trying to run away from him. And I don't know, I think that maybe Bosa was worried about a penalty, maybe, because instead of trying to yank Baker Mayfield down, he runs with Baker and allows Baker to continue the play. If it's me, I think you go dead weight and you make Baker have to drag you. If nothing else, it slows Mayfield down. Maybe somebody else can come and disrupt the play. But I don't know if he was worried about a flag there or what the situation was, but I have never seen a play like that before in my life. And I was all set to come on here and say how that was the epitome of this 49er season and Nick Bosa, right? Close, in position, and then all of a sudden you go up an unbelievable thing and you lose. Now, that didn't happen ultimately because the Niners won the game, but that play was bizarre. I hope to hear more about that play because I've never seen a play like that before in my life. I've never seen a play like that. Mr. J. Fizz, our defense needs to step it up. Horrible game, but a win is a win. Look, the defense only gave up 20 points on the day, and the Niners fumbling set Tampa Bay up. So I don't think the defense played that bad today. I really don't. I think it was more on the offense, and I think it was on the special teams, as I have said going into this game. Arjun, thank you very much for the donation. YouTube channel member says, excited to visit Levi's Stadium for the first time next week. Coming from the Netherlands. There's a trip. A game like today, I don't think I'd survive in real life. I mean, my heart is beating out of my chest right now. That was a freaking roller coaster. And by the way, just keep in mind that this is a win that Kyle Shanahan was trailing in the fourth quarter. I know people love to bring that up. Oh, Kyle never wins when he's trailing in the fourth quarter. Well, they were trailing 17-13 in the fourth quarter of this game. So, just file that away. Mr. J. Fizz gifted 20 Gold Standard Podcast Network memberships. Thank you so much, Mr. J. Fizz. If you're not a YouTube channel member, become one, please. It's less than $3 a month. You get custom emojis, membership badges. You get priority comment response. If you sign up for the $4 a month membership, you get early access to our 49ers in 5 news update that comes out every weekday morning. Please and thank you. Gabe Garoni, member, says, ugliest win I can remember in a while. Red zone woes continue. Special teams are killing me, but Kittle, Jennings, CMC, and Ricky are huge. Defense held up better than I expected without Mooney Ward. Yeah, I mean, the Mooney Ward thing, take as much time as you need, Mooney Ward. I can't even imagine what he's going through right now. Football should be the last thing on his mind. So, yes, I'll say this about Ricky Pearsall. They got something. They got something with Ricky Pearsall. He is continuing to fit right into this draft class. Pearsall on the day, 4 catches, 73 yards, had a 46-yard touchdown. That was really the only big play in the first half of the 49ers. Ricky Pearsall, there's something there, man. And in clutch situations, Brock went to him twice on the final drive. That tells you something too, right? Tells you something about the faith he has in Ricky Pearsall. He went to Jennings and he went to Pearsall. And if he's passing the football, those are the two guys that he clearly has the most chemistry with without Brandon Ayuk there. And that is so encouraging. This is Pearsall's 3rd game ever, and he's being counted on to make clutch plays at the end on a potential game-winning drive. That's huge, man. That's incredible. And this draft class just looks like a freaking home run, doesn't it? I mean, God, Renardo Green had a huge pass breakup. Should he have been flagged? Maybe, maybe not. The Mike Pereira said no on the play where Baker drops back. He spins out of pressure. He chucks it downfield, and the guy from Tampa Bay is open. And Renardo Green comes, bam, bang, bang when the ball gets there, disrupts the play, incomplete. He looks really good. We didn't really see much of Isaac Grendo. He had 1 carry for 0 yards. Jordan Mason, 1 carry for 5 yards in the game. But we have seen the rookies on this team. Renardo Green played really, really well. Obviously, Malik Mustafa was still laying people out in the game. So, yeah, this rookie class just continues to shine for the 49ers every single week. Lettuce 49 says Purdy also did not panic, waited before the spike. Yep, they counted the clock down. That operation on the final drive was excellent. Everybody knew what to do. Nobody panicked. Like I said, it was one of the smoothest drives of the day from the 49ers. And you know, I've banged on Purdy for a lot this year, but I know what I would be saying if he didn't come through, right? What would we all be saying? We'd be sitting here saying, you want $60 million a year. You've had a clunker of a game. In that moment, you got to get it done, right? You have to deliver in that moment if you're a guy, if you're a quarterback. And the Niners get the ball back. There's 41 seconds left in the game. They have 1 timeout, and they just went boom, 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 right down the field. Did not face a 3rd down on that entire drive. Jennings for 6, Pearsall for 6, Pearsall for 14, Jennings for 13, spike, field goal, game over. That is a well-oiled machine in a critical spot at the biggest drive of the game. So credit to Brock Purdy, because he was not great all day. He was high all day. He was misfiring a lot of the time, but when it was nut cutting time, he came through. He was flawless, and he deserves credit for it. Let me just take a sip of my drink here. If you are new to the show, thank you. Normally I have Levin Black here, my co-host, and we ping pong stuff back and forth, but he was working today, so he couldn't do it. Moonman Ed says typical 49ers, but I'll take it. LFG. Exactly. Well, you going to be mad about a win? Are there things to fix? Yeah. Did they do a lot of the same stupid stuff? Yeah. Is it frustrating? Yeah. But it's way easier to deal with after a win, ain't it? What are the Buccaneers saying? Oh my God, they gave us the game. I can't believe it. They won, man. They won. And we can break down this game later in the week, and we're going to break it down tonight too. But got to be happy tonight. Tonight is a night for happiness. Shay says, watching Bosa is so frustrating. Is he dancing with Baker Mayfield? I want to hear more about that play from both sides. I bet you there's a little bit of a story there. Yanni Rude says, 3rd missed field goal is on Kyle. It's 4 down territory. You could make that point. And look, my big takeaway if the Niners had lost this game was, yes, Moody didn't do his job, but it should never come down to the kicker, man. They have too many drives that just stall out. They get one big play that gets them down there, and then it's just, and the offense just dies. That has happened way too much this year. And Christian McCaffrey was supposed to fix all of that. And McCaffrey was awesome today because Christian McCaffrey is always awesome today. But even he couldn't fix it. When they get down in the red zone, they can't run the ball at all. Kyle tries to just run the ball, and it's just nothing. 1 yard, no yards, loss of 1, nothing. It's frustrating, man. First drive of the game, or I'm sorry, first missed field goal of the game. Niners are getting the ball back, boom, boom, boom. 1st and 10 at the Tampa Bay 38, incomplete. 2nd and 10, incomplete. 3rd and 10, 7 yards. 4th and 3, Moody misses a 49-yard field goal. Like, in that situation, should you go for it? It's only 3 yards, man. Do you want to run Jake Moody out there for a 49-yard field goal next week in that spot, or are you going to go for it, Kyle? And if you don't have a kicker that you can trust, and that's forcing you to go for it, then why is he on the team? So that's questions the 49ers are going to have to ask themselves as they move forward this week for sure. Another drive I want to highlight is the first drive of the second half. Niners get the ball. It starts on the 21-yard line. Excuse me. I apologize. No, the 49ers first drive of the second half. After the punt return that gets fumbled and the Bucs score, it's 10-10. Same thing, right? Niners get the ball. They are driving down the field, 3rd and 5. Brock throws to Deebo for 11, and now you're in business, right? You're right at the red zone. McCaffrey for 5. Great. Incomplete to Jennings. Purdy goes back to McCaffrey. First down. 1st and goal at the 9-yard line. Garendo up the middle. Nothing. 2nd and goal. Unblocked rusher. Brock Purdy goes, takes the sack, loses 10 yards, and then Kyle calls a give-up screen to Deebo Samuel on 3rd and goal, and the Niners have to kick a field goal, 33 yards. Thank God Jake Moody didn't miss that one. Another example of the 49ers just in the red zone. I don't know why it happens, man, but it's got to get better. We're 9 games into the season now. Figure it out, man. 808 Niner says Sorensen got to go. Soft coverage and too high all day. Again, the Buccaneers only scored 20 points in the game, and 7 of those were set up by a botched punt return that put Tampa Bay at the Niners' 21-yard line. The defense, I can't blame Nick Sorensen for that. I really can't. 20 points is not a lot to give up modern day, especially when one of the possessions was a short field. And they bowed up at the end of the game, right? Tampa Bay's driving down the field. Tampa Bay had a 1st and goal at the 8-yard line at the end. They ran it for 3 yards. They got stuffed for -3 yards. Evan Anderson made a big stop. And on 3rd and goal, Baker throws incomplete. They bowed up at the end of the game. They could have folded. They didn't. Is it perfect? No, definitely not. I completely agree with you, 808 Niner. Not perfect, but the offense is the bigger issue right now for this team. JCG 1987, Moody is getting crapped on by fans for doing the same thing they love Jimmy for. Almost cost the 49ers many games, only to make one good play for the win. Well done, JCG 1987. Look, we can laugh about it now, right? He made that kick at the end. Oh, my God. I can't even imagine what he's feeling. I mean, Deebo Samuel's going after him after the last missed field goal. On top of everything else on Jake Moody's mind, he's probably like, Deebo could twist me into a pretzel if I miss this thing, right? Imagine going out to do something where in that moment, if you fail, you no longer have a job, right? You are getting fired. That's where Jake Moody was at the end of this game. That's where he was. It was a 44-yard field goal, not a chip shot. 44 yards is not a chip shot. And he had to have that on his mind, and he made it. And credit to him, at least for making that one. The Big 25 says Shanahan will never admit he screwed up wasting a 3rd-round pick on a kicker, so get used to Moody. That's not true. They admit they screwed up on 3rd-round picks all the time. Do you not remember Ty Davis-Price? Do you not remember Trey Sermon? They shipped those guys out almost immediately. So they shipped out Trey Lance, and they gave up a ton to get Trey Lance, right? 4 starts, they got him out. So I disagree. They do admit their mistakes when it comes to draft picks. JCG 1987 says, what blackmail does Brian Schneider have on Kyle Shanahan? Kyle was asked over the bye, are you thinking of making a change? And he said, it doesn't even enter my mind. Doesn't enter your mind. Dude, how does it not enter your mind? Again today, we are 9 weeks into the season, 9 games, excuse me. And almost every single week, you can point to a horrific play on special teams. And now it's the point where the broadcast is queued up and ready to go. A bad 49ers special teams package. So that just goes to show how consistently bad they have been. When the networks, they've got it ready to go. And full disclosure, I worked on Pro Football Talk Live. I produced that show with Chris Sims and Mike Florio at NBC Sports for 7 years. Literally, when you've got sort of a running narrative like that, guaranteed you go to your production crew and you're like, look, they've been bad on special teams all year. I need a B-roll pack of all their miscues. So I've guaranteed they all have it now and it's all ready to go. And they just keep adding to it every single week. So, yeah, he really has to consider that. I wonder if he'll get asked about it after the game. Matthew Rowley says, this team stinks and is going to miss the playoffs. Everyone needs to be gone but Brock. Rebuild around him with a coach and with some balls. Dude, they won. They won the game. I know it wasn't pretty, but damn, man. We've all gotten a little spoiled with this team, the way they have just been a thresher maw and just ripping teams up. Particularly last year, they won all their wins except one came by double digits. And the only reason that didn't come by double digits is because McVay kicked a field goal on the last play of the game to make it a one-score game. They have been kicking the hell out of people for so long that people expect that every week. What we saw today is a normal NFL game. Most NFL games are decided by 6 points or fewer. So this is how the other half lives, basically. We've gotten spoiled. It's not like this all the time. So you've got to get comfortable with some gritty wins like this, because that's how most teams win in the NFL. I've been sort of focused on the Niners all day, but let me just take a quick look. Washington, Pittsburgh, that's a one-score game. Minnesota beat Jacksonville 12-7 today. That was a one-score game. Buffalo beat Indy by 10. That's not a shock. Wait a minute. Why are there so few scores here? Sorry, I'm just taking a look at the scoreboard. There are a lot. No, okay. I'm sorry. I misheard it. Let's see. New England beat them by multiple scores. Kansas City beat Denver 16-14. That's a one-score game. New Orleans beat Atlanta by 3. That's a one-score game. The 49ers are not the only team winning by one score, is my point. This is how most games are in the NFL. We got to get used to it. All right. I think my thing is about to crash here, so I apologize if it does. Let's see. Anthony Mori, thank you very much for the super chat donation. Andre Garibay, Kyle still doesn't change. Relies way too much on field goal attempts. Had 3 timeouts, before the half, and still plays for a damn 3. Both Moody and special teams coach should be gone. Where was Mason? Kyle has regressed. I will say that if you're going to stick with Moody, you have to factor in his volatility on these fourth down decisions and your decisions with play calling in the red zone and all that stuff. You have to. Because you can only play as conservative as you play if you're Kyle Shanahan, if your kicker is a stone cold lock. Because otherwise, what the hell is the point, right? Then you're really tying one hand behind your back. If you've got a unreliable field goal kicker and you're more conservative on third down and fourth down, like that, you're playing into the defense's hands at that point. So that's a question that the Niners are going to have to ask themselves for sure. Daza 0187 says special teams was awful and essentially gave up 16 points. Still, the offense has to execute better so we don't have to kick so many field goals in the first place. Good things will happen when we go to Kittle. Why don't we use him more? Yeah, that's one thing I really wish Kyle Shanahan would change. On big third downs, way too often he has Kittle in the backfield to block. And you're taking him away from your own team. I don't understand it. I don't understand why he did it in the Super Bowl on that critical third down. Kittle was in the backfield to block. He didn't block the free rusher, and the pass was incomplete. Like, why take him away from yourself? If the other team's going to take him away with a double team, let him. George Kittle in the backfield pass blocking, that ain't it. Okay? And you could say, well, the offensive line sucks. Well, then it's on you to fix the offensive line. The solution can't be to take away one of your most dynamic playmakers voluntarily. I totally disagree with that. We could throw that play into the sun. Joe Crowell says they might cut Moody right now. They might. Con JKJ, thank you so much for the super chat. Says, is Jordan Mason still a little hurt? I wish he would have gotten a little more burn. Our rushing game could have been better today. I don't know. He was in the blue non-contact jersey along with Deebo on Wednesday. Then they took it off on Thursday. I think it was Wednesday, Thursday. I know one time this week he was in the blue non-contact jersey. He may be. Look, he's got a shoulder injury. He was playing with it through basically a separated shoulder. He can't be feeling good right now. But, and we can talk about this, this is pretty much a regular workload for Christian McCaffrey. 13 carries, 39 yards. He also caught 6 of 7 targets for 68 yards. That's pretty, maybe they took him off the field for 3 or 4 plays where he would have been on, but it was pretty much full go for Christian McCaffrey. Whether that's right or wrong, who knows? As of right now, it appears that he is okay, but I think the whole thing with him is how does he feel when he wakes up tomorrow, right? I think that's the issue with Christian McCaffrey is 1, get through the game, yes, but 2, are they going to be driving you crazy tomorrow morning? How do you feel when you wake up? That's something that we're going to have to find out. and hopefully he's okay. I'm sure Kyle will get asked about it after the game. Kendall Wilkins says, I don't agree with the Purdy take. He had 350 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no turnovers. I think he's throwing high, so his throws don't get tipped. Campbell ain't it. Tom Brady said during the broadcast, well, that's the sneakiest 300-yard game I've ever seen. 353 is a lot of yardage with 2 touchdowns and no picks. Why don't I feel like he played better then? And maybe that's on me, but I don't know. Like, when I watched the game, a lot of his throws were high. He got bailed out by a lot of his receivers. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't feel like he played a great game. Now, he played better in the second half than he did in the first half. And I think if those field goals were made, I probably would feel better about him. And so what's going into my thinking is those drives stalled and we got nothing. And so, yes, he put up the yardage, but it's not his fault, but it ended up being empty yardage. So that's influencing my thinking on how he played. If he had made those field goals, I probably would feel better. So maybe you're more right than I am, Kando. That's a good point by you. But he does have to take some of the blame for the drive stalling out and needing to rely on a kicker. So you're not totally wrong. I don't think I'm totally wrong either. And I'm really trying not to straddle the fence here, but I think that's the case. The Big 25 says they barely beat a team without both of their starting wide receivers and not a very good run defense. Yep, but they beat them. The third word of your comment is the most important. They won. It doesn't matter if you win by 1 or win by 100. The win counts exactly the same. Exactly the same. And if the 49ers get into the playoffs by 1 game or because of a tiebreaker because they have a better record in the NFC, are you going to care? It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. A win is a win is a win. Nikki says our pass rush is not very good right now. No, it's not. It's pretty bad right now. Bosa's really the only one that gets a pass rush. Although I did think Malik Collins played well. There were a ton of plays where he was firing off the ball right at the snap. I noticed that multiple times. I wrote that down in my notes. But that's not really a pass rush. He kind of just disrupts the plays, a lot of run plays too. But no, the pass rush is not very good. Leonard Floyd is not that great. You know, he's doing the best he can, but he's past his prime, and he's clearly not the same 9-10 sack player that he was the previous 4 years before he got to San Francisco. I think that's pretty obvious right now. And it's probably going to be a thing in future games. But it was just good enough today. Real OBJ CDT says trade Moody in a second rounder for Kansas City's Butker. The trade deadline is over, first and foremost, so that's not happening. Also, I don't want to have to be in a position to root for Harrison Butker for any reason. Perfect Blackness Senior says, great season-saving win. There's some positivity here. Let's go. I'm sorry the players had to overcome coaching and bad kicking. Shout out to the rookies. Shouldn't have been this close. Yeah, it shouldn't have been this close. But again, if you change none of the play calls and Jake Moody just does his job, the 49ers have 32 points. And then no one's saying anything about the bad play calls. So, you know, I understand the frustration, but also a little perspective, I think, would be helpful. Ethan Parrish says, Bosa is no longer elite. Sad to say. Coverage sacks can't play the run. Yes, they had a good plan, but it's every week. I'll say this. There is no way that Bosa play on 4th down happens to TJ Watt. No way in hell. TJ Watt is not just running with Nick Bosa while holding onto his arm. He's not. I've never seen a play like that. That was bizarre. And I don't know if Bosa was just trying to avoid a flag, if he thought they would call in the grasp. Something was weird because he just wasn't doing enough. He had his arm and he was like, oh, well, that's it. I've done enough. The play is over. Like, no, dude, the play is not over. That would have been, that play would have lived in infamy if the 49ers had lost that game. That play would have been shown on every show, every breakdown show forever. And now it's going to be completely forgotten because they won. And that's what winning does. It washes away that stink. Lettuce49 says, sure hope Moody threw a punch at Deebo after. Yeah, you don't really see members of this team going after one another because usually things are pretty good and they're winning. That's the first time really I've ever seen that. So I'm interested to see what transpires there. We'll hear more about it, I'm sure. Gabe Garoni says, last Bucs drive aided by 4 straight 49er penalties. I mean, it was comical. It was crippling too. And you know what? Like, they could have easily folded up shop and they didn't. That's why I gave them credit before. And the more I think about it, the more credit they deserve. They could have folded up shop and said, oh my God, the officials are out to get us. Here we go again. And they didn't. They buckled down and they kept them out of the end zone. That deserve credit for that. 100%, 1,000%. That is a good job. And again, they only allowed 20 points on the day. with all the offensive firepower the 49ers have, if the defense only gives up 20 points, Niners should win every week because you should be scoring 30 points pretty much or close to it every single week. So I'm not blaming the defense. Edgar, YouTube channel member, thank you very much for the donation, says a W is a W. Baker always throwing in 2 to 3 seconds. The first time he didn't, Bosa was there. Yeah, he got the ball out quick. Bosa did have a sack also on the day. The consistent impact, I feel like, from Nick Bosa is what you want to see more of. The game-changing plays. Like, too often it's Bosa was close, but the guy got away. Bosa was close, but he threw it away. Or Bosa was close, but he broke the tackle. Too much close, but no cigar with Nick Bosa. Cynthia says, Rob, I'm happy for the win, but hope we have what it takes to beat the better teams on our schedule. And you worry about the better teams next week. Excuse me, let me take a sip. Like, if you said, well, the 49ers can't do this against the Lions or the Bills and win, you're right. They can't, but they're not playing that game right now. They worry about that when that game comes up. You know, the truth is they were playing a Bucs team that's been struggling. They've been playing well, but they were on a 3-game losing streak coming in. This is the effort that was required to beat them, and they did it. So worry about next week. Survive and advance. Warren Lord says, absolutely disagree, Rob. This team had 2 weeks to prepare for a depleted and exhausted Bucs team. It takes everything. We're a bottom feeder, 7-10. Look, maybe they ultimately do finish 7-10, but we got a long way to go before that. All right. Kyle Shanahan has won 70% of his games after the bye week. And again, I feel like I need to remind people they won this game today. They won. I get that it wasn't perfect. And yes, there are a ton of things to fix. The special teams, I mean, God, it's every single week. They have to get that fixed up. Their red zone scoring, I don't know what it is. Look, this was Christian McCaffrey's first week back. Maybe everybody needs a week or two to, get back into the flow of things. Maybe. But those issues are still there, 100% still there. Kyle Shanahan was mad about it in the first half. He told the Aaron Andrews of the Fox broadcast crew, like, what are we doing? We got to make the field goal. We got to finish drives in the red zone. He kind of threw Brock under the bus a little bit too. He said we missed 2 throws. So, and I'm not ready to say right now whether it was bad play calls, whether Brock did miss open guys in the red zone. I got to rewatch the game, which I will do tomorrow. So I don't want to say one way or another right now because I've said things in the past on the Instant Reaction show and then been proven wrong the next day. So we'll have to see. But it has to be better. Regardless of who is at fault, it has to be better. But we can work on that. Isn't it better to work on that after a win, right? Like, let's just be, if we can't be happy about this win today, then we're just going to be miserable all week. Matthew Rowley says, yes, many teams win by 1 score, but not many teams look incompetent while doing it. Sure they do. Either this team is really talented and underperformed, or it isn't talented and should not be talked about like it is. Well, whether they should be talked about like it is up for debate. But I mean, Kansas City played Denver and won by 2 points. Kansas City only scored 16 points on the day. So, like, are they mad? Are they sitting there mad because they didn't win by enough and they didn't score a lot? Or are they saying, hey, we're 9-0, right? Again, the win, it counts the same whether you win by 1 or 100. And would you rather the 49ers be 4-5 right now or 5-4? Because I'm taking 5-4. All you have to do is get into the playoffs by hook or by crook. That's it. Once you get in the playoffs, the season starts anew. It's a whole new year, and you take it one game at a time. It doesn't matter if you're undefeated in the regular season and you've beaten every team by 1,000 points. You get in the playoffs and you lose your first playoff game, you're out. So all that matters for this team is getting in. I get that we'd all like them to look like the super team that they were last year. I'm on board with you there. Hell yeah, I'd love it if they were shredding people. It'd be easier on my heart. I almost had a friggin' heart attack today. But it counts all the same. It doesn't matter. Just get in. History is littered with Super Bowl champions that were average teams in the regular season and then found themselves in the playoffs. The Super Bowl trophy counts just the same. So survive and advance. This team is not as good as last year. They're not getting back to that. Like, put that out of your head. Okay. If you're just hoping for them to live up to that every week, forget that. That's not happening. It's clear by now. They're not at that level, but that's okay. That's not a requirement to get into the playoffs. And it sure as hell is not a requirement to win the Super Bowl. So doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's Super Bowl or bust, right? It's not look really good and win a Super Bowl or bust. They took a step closer to getting back to where they want to be today, and we should be happy about that. Matthew Rowley says, Purdy given player of the week by Brady, who was very kind about his entire game. Tom Brady hasn't exactly been shy about criticizing Brock Purdy. He did it again today, and I thought it was fair criticisms for the record. But he was telling Brian Baldinger, that he wasn't impressed with Brock Purdy. But Brock, on the last 2 drives, Brock got it done. That was the good Brock Purdy. That was the on-target, on-time Brock Purdy. That was the extending plays Brock Purdy, making dot throws after running around for 8 seconds. That was everything good about Brock Purdy you saw on the last 2 drives today. And that makes you feel good, right? It's still in there, right? We got to bring that out a little more, and maybe we will. Hopefully we will, especially if Christian McCaffrey can continue to play. But it was nice to see that guy show up. Real OBJ CDT says, so what? Mahomes getting carried by special teams and defense. Yeah, but they're winning, so who cares, right? And if the Chiefs get into the playoffs, are you going to say they're not the Super Bowl favorites? Of course you will, because they've got Patrick Mahomes, and they're really, really good. So don't worry about the style points, really. That's not what it's about. Joe Crowell says, we're 1 play away from being way tougher on Brock, and that play was Jawan bailing him out on that fumble. Okay, you could say that, but then the Bucs on the ensuing possession fumbled twice on 1 play and got both of them back. So, that goes both ways. Daza 0187 says, up until that final drive, Brock Purdy wasn't great. Passes were high at people's feet and often behind the receiver. The stats are deceiving. I'd like to go back and rewatch because 350 yards is a lot. But like I said, I think the missed field goals are probably biasing me a little bit. Hink Dad says Bosa was tired from staying up late on Tuesday night, celebrating that huge W. Maybe. I don't know what Nick Bosa's plan was. Bay Marin. Hey, Bay Marin, where you been, man? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Nice to see you again. Try Pilsner, Urkel instead of Stella. Also, Brock was good today. I do like Stella. Not going to lie. I got a crack an adult beverage after a 49ers win. Let me check. I haven't checked Twitter. Let me take a look and see what the post-game highlights have been. Kyle said he didn't see the on-field incident between Taybor Pepper and Deebo Samuel, but adds he's not too worried about it. Look, guys get mad. I do think it's a little weak of Deebo Samuel to go after the kicker. Like, dude, why haven't you scored more touchdowns? But, emotions run high after the game. Let's see if I can play the audio of Kyle Shanahan. Let me throw him up here. All right. Kyle Shanahan, let's see, hear your thoughts on it.
What's your take after this field goal where Deebo appeared to get into it with Moody and Taybor Pepper and his fault?
I don't have much of a take because I didn't see any of it, so I just got told about it. But probably an obvious one. Guys frustrated, and something probably happened, and brothers scuffle a little bit. I didn't see any of it, so I don't know how bad it was, but something I'm not too worried about. We'll fix it. If it hasn't been fixed already, we'll fix it on the plane, and we'll go back to loving each other tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that's the correct response. First of all, the I didn't see it is a great way for a coach to get out of having to answer about it because, if you didn't see it, you didn't see it. This is something that, should Deebo have done it? No. If Deebo goes up to Taybor and to Moody afterwards and was like, I was wrong, my bad, I shouldn't have done that. And if Moody says, hey, dude, I got to make my kicks, it's all good. And this is a non-thing. So it all depends on how they handle it going forward. And also if Jake Moody stays on, if he continues to make his kicks, I'm sure that'll be a factor as well. But this should be something that the 49ers are able to handle and able to handle it, in-house. Yeah, somebody said on Twitter, I'm just seeing somebody said, haven't seen Moody yell at Deebo when Deebo drops a pass. I mean, look, he's frustrated. I get it. But this kind of thing happens a lot. There's how many times have we seen footage of Peyton Manning chewing out his offensive lineman? Emotions run high in the game. And look, the Niners knew what was at stake this week. They knew what a loss would mean. This was a big game for them. This was a gotta have it game. And Jake Moody missed 3 kicks that really he should have made all 3. They were not incredibly difficult kicks. So I get why Deebo Samuel is frustrated. I completely understand that. Should he have done that? No. Again, if he goes up and apologizes, it's a nothing burger. It's over. Water under the bridge, and everybody can move on. There's more than 1,200 people watching right now. Thank you so much. Please give us a like and a subscribe. If this is your first time checking out the Gold Standard podcast, we're live every single weekday and after every 49ers game. Like I said, I usually have a co-host, Levin Black, here with me, so it's not just me talking at you. So if you give us a chance, I promise you it's more of a conversation than this most of the time. But thank you for joining. We appreciate it. Niners get the 23-20 win. Hell freaking yeah. I know it wasn't perfect. I'm still happy about it. You're never going to be able to bring me down after a win, especially a win where, as far as I can tell right now, nobody was injured significantly, although we can check that after. I saw this tweet from Pro Football Focus. Brock Purdy, when throwing past the sticks, was 10 of 16 for 171, 2 touchdowns, no picks. That's impressive. That makes me swing back in the other direction for Brock Purdy playing a better game today than maybe I initially thought. I think what we saw today was, with Jennings back and Christian McCaffrey back, we saw a much more comfortable Brock Purdy in those pressure spots. He loves to go to CMC. He loves to go to Jawan. And we saw him do that multiple times today in critical spots. And I think Pearsall is starting to work his way into that area as well. But it's just easier. He's got chemistry with those guys. He's not afraid to throw it into tight windows. He knows where they're going to be. Jennings, 7 catches for 93 yards. He led the team today. And Pearsall was second. And McCaffrey was third. Deebo Samuel, 5 catches for 62 yards. And he had a long of 32. So it was the Jennings, Pearsall, McCaffrey show. Kittle had 3 catches for 57 yards. 1 juggling play that was a really nice catch early in the game. And then he had a 33-yarder where, like, damn, man, George Kittle's just like a rhinoceros in the open field. He is like a runaway rhino, man, just barreling down into people. Loves to see it. But I think on the critical plays, it's not Kittle that he goes to. It's Jennings, and now maybe Pearsall, and, of course, Christian McCaffrey, like we saw on that beautiful lob down the sideline. That was a fantastic play, but it looked like Brock Purdy was a little more comfortable in those spots. Apparently, Jake Moody spoke. Okay, let's listen to this. After the game, he went through all his misses. I have not heard this, so we're going to hear it together live. Let me throw it up on the screen. Here's Jake Moody talking about the misses.
Too crazy, and yes, a lot of emotions that happened in the game. We were able to quiet it down and just focus on the last one.
Is there anything you weren't feeling right about in the missed kicks that you had?
The first kick, I felt like I hit it well. The wind was pushing them to the right. Warm-ups, I just had to kind of die down, I think. The next one, just hold it. It happens. You're not going to hit it clean every single time. And I would let that one back. Third one, I felt like I hit it great. Just the wind kind of shoved it a little right. And so thankfully, I got to kick from that same spot and was able to make the adjustment and put it through the last one.
Okay, that's true. And thank God you were able to adjust. But, dude, I don't want to hear you talking about the wind. All right. They weren't big misses. He did miss by a little bit every time. But, you got to be able to read the wind better then. I don't want to hear. No, man. I don't want to hear about the wind. You screwed it up. Tristan Decker says over 100 yards of run after catch. That's what we've been missing. Doesn't take away from the 350 yards. Great game by Brock Purdy. It is nice to see that back a little bit because it's been such a staple of this offense. It's true. I didn't think about it, but now when I go back and think about the plays, Deebo had a big play with a ton of yak. Kittle had a big play with a ton of yak. The Pearsall touchdown had a ton of yak on it. So we were seeing the return of that a little bit. That's putting these guys in a position to do what they do best, right? They're better with the ball in their hands after the catch. Put them in that position and let them do it. Let them run down the field together. Hell yeah. Absolutely. Oh, okay. We got a little more info on the infamous Nick Bosa play. Oh, sorry. Let me add that to the screen. Nick Bosa said he was trying to avoid a horse collar penalty on the insane Baker Mayfield stiff arm play. Just found himself between a rock and a hard place. See, he was thinking about that. And I don't blame him for that. As hard as I've been on Nick Bosa, dude, there are so many rules about quarterbacks and what you can and can't do. You do have to think about that in the heat of the moment. And that's a fourth down play with the game on the line, and Bosa has to think about that. But you have to do more than he did, Nick Bosa. You have to do more than just hold his arm and hope. Pull him down. It's not a horse collar if you pull his arm, right? You had his arm. You didn't have the back of his jersey. The only way you get a horse collar is if you pull the jersey. When you've got his arm, yank that thing. Try to rip it out of the socket. I'm exaggerating, but you know what I mean. Put your weight down so that Baker Mayfield has to drag you towards the sideline if he wants to keep moving. Don't run with him because you're making it easier for him, and he still has the other arm to throw the football, which he did for a first down. So I get that you have to think about that stuff, Bosa. That's a legitimate concern, but you got to do more than you did. I mean, come on. You absolutely have to do more than you did. Kyle Shanahan said after the game, told the team last night, don't expect it to be fun. Would be grimy and sticky. We knew we'd get their best shot, had an opportunity to run away with it and didn't, and it was on us. Proud of all three phases, how they rallied. You be proud of all three phases. I know one phase you shouldn't be proud of. 1 out of 4 field goals is not getting you into the Hall of Fame, okay? Actually, he did make another field goal. I shouldn't say that. He did make 2 field goals in the game. Shanahan said Renardo Green has a toe injury and did not return. Rock Ya-Sin took over for him. Don't love hearing that. That is not an area where the 49ers have depth in the secondary at corner, particularly if Mooney Ward is going to be away from the team. And again, he should be away from the team. But that's definitely something to monitor for Renardo Green. And a toe injury for a corner is tough too, right? Because it's all stop and start and change of direction. It's tough on your feet. So that's a little scary. This Deebo thing seems to have taken over Twitter. Again, it can be water under the bridge. He did ultimately redeem himself. So that is a huge part of this. And I should give a little credit, by the way, to Jacob Cowing, who had a phenomenal punt return right at the end of the game, right when we're all sitting here saying, oh my God, it's 49ers special teams, 49ers special teams. Okay. But they needed a big punt return and they got one. They absolutely got one. 30 yards. It was 4th and 6 at the Tampa Bay 44 with 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Cowing returns at 30 yards. And instead of starting, deep in your own territory at the 6-yard line where he caught the punt, Niners are at the 36-yard line. And all of a sudden, 2 plays later, or I should say 3 plays later, they're in Tampa Bay territory at the 23-yard line. That's sort of the hidden yardage that you can get back on special teams if you're not a total train wreck there. Gabe Garoni, thanks for the super chat, says still too many plays for coach's buddy, Kyle Juszczyk. I'm never in favor of giving Kyle Juszczyk a touch when you've got all these other guys on the team. That's just the reality of the situation. Princess Consuela Banana Hammock, thank you very much for the super chat, says, I'm curious if there's a correlation between the interior offensive line pressure and Purdy's high throws. Maybe Michelle can check out the stats. Generally, that would maybe cause you to throw high, but not all of those throws came with interior pressure. That's the thing. Some of those throws were just flat out high by Brock Purdy. And he has a little bit of like a fire hose sometimes where it's like he doesn't really know where it's going. He had a couple of throws in this game where I was like, was that tipped? Like, what happened there? Just a very kind of up and down performance for Brock Purdy. But hey, he came through when it mattered. He came through in the clutch multiple times at the end of the game, right? And if Jake Moody had missed the field goals, nobody would be talking about Brock Purdy having an up and down game. Tammy Osterday says, I'm okay with Deebo. It's a hard, passionate game. Jake doesn't put his body out there like the rest of the team, and there should be expectations of the kicker. It's completely legitimate for someone to say to Jake Moody, you didn't do your job well enough today. Completely true. And if Deebo said that in a not nice way, I get it. Physically going after the guy, I don't love, but I do agree. It's heat of the moment. It's passionate. Their season was essentially on the line. You don't like it, but you understand it. And it depends what they do going forward. Kyle Shanahan said they're going to fix it on the plane ride home, and they very easily could. Everybody shakes hands. Hey, man, my bad. Hey, man, I should have been better. Shake hands, done. Doesn't mean they have to like each other, by the way. Not everybody has to get along on a football team. All they got to do is be able to coexist. Vinny V says Captain Deebo is done with the special teams, pushed Pepper into Moody on the way, too. Kiwi Hansen says Moody was 3 of 6, too fast to return from injured reserve, in my opinion. I'll say this. I was interested. Moody talked about that, and he said that it's better to have an ankle injury to my kicking foot than my plant foot, because the plant foot, you really put a lot of pressure on when you go to plant to make your kick. So you want that ankle to be healthier. If he had a high ankle sprain on that one, he may not be back yet because you got to drill that foot into the ground before you kick it. So I thought that was really, really interesting. Valerie said Tabor spoke about what happened between him and Deebo. Deebo was telling Moody to lock in, and Tabor said he stood up for Moody. Well, if that's all he said was lock in, yeah, he's kind of right, isn't he? Like, damn. And thank you, Valerie. I appreciate that. I'm trying to check stuff, but sometimes I miss it when I'm hosting solo. But dude, he's right. Lock in, right? If Deebo dropped the ball over the middle and somebody went up to Deebo and said, hey, lock in, they'd be right. They'd be right. So if that's all it was, I kind of get it. Now, you can say lock in without going after somebody physically, but maybe he said lock in. Tabor said, hey, bleep you, get out of here. And then Deebo was like, oh, the long snapper says bleep me? I don't think so. And that's a whole separate thing. Barry says it just seems the 49ers offense and defense are playing a game of chicken and that they both want to slack off and watch the other excel. It does feel like they're always putting us in a position to have these heart attack games, right? Like it's always like, oh my God. Oh, okay. Even with some of Brock's plays, it's like he drops back, he's rolling out. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, okay. I mean, the one play, the key play on the touchdown drive where 2nd and 10, Brock's rolling out, and he goes to throw the ball away. He may have stepped out of bounds before he did. I'm not sure what they would have ruled, but he gets hit as he's throwing the ball away out of bounds. And then another Tampa Bay defender comes in and hits him, which, by the way, that's absolutely a flag. Absolutely a flag. I know Tom Brady was like, no. If Brady was where Brock was, he would have been crying to the officials the second that play happened. It was absolutely a flag. But even that play was like a roller coaster. Like, oh my God. Oh, okay. It worked out for the 49ers. Valerie said that's what it sounded like from how Tabor Pepper described it. So there we go. Tabor Pepper getting involved. 49ers Shaolin Style says Moody was not put on IR because when they brought him back, it wastes the person back from IR when they think they have 2 left after the defensive lineman comes back next week. They just activated a kicker from the practice squad. Yeah, they didn't want to put him on IR. You're right, 49ers Shaolin, because you only get 8 of those, I think, per year. And you don't want to use one on a kicker, really. Ooh, this is an interesting comment from Connor on Twitter, who says, the fact that the Niners barely won that game and the topic of the week is going to be Deebo grabbing the long snapper by the throat is so upsetting. Niners need to show up next week as a unit. Yeah, like I said, they have to get better at certain things, 1,000%, but they won today. We can be happy after a win, can't we? Isn't that allowed? Let's enjoy the win today and work on correcting stuff during the week. Greg S. says, Moody didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes kickers miss. Real leaders build up their teammates. Come on, Deebo. Again, if everything we've heard is true, all Deebo said to Jake Moody is, hey, man, lock in. That wasn't like, hey, you cost us the game. Hey, you're screwing us up. If all he said was, hey, man, lock in, that is kind of, I don't know if I would call it building it up, but that's nothing. All right. That's nothing. That's him trying to motivate a teammate and help a teammate. Right. Like, and I don't know what the interaction was. We have to see. But if that's what it was, and then Tabor Pepper said, hey, bleep you, that's different. Then you're like, Deebo, it's like, I don't want to hear crap from the long snapper. You do one thing, like, so I don't want to totally get on Deebo for that. We'll see. John Williams says sometimes kickers miss 1. He missed 3 and legitimately at least 2 could have. Yeah. He could have. It was dicey from Jake Moody. No doubt. No doubt about it. Before I go, I do want to talk a little bit more about Christian McCaffrey. Again, 13 carries for 39 yards, 6 catches, 68 yards. Ho-hum, another 100-yard day from scrimmage for Christian McCaffrey. How many times have we seen, by the way, with Trent Williams and Nick Bosa and Brandon Ayuk? Oh, they weren't playing. They got to get into football shape. It takes a few weeks. Christian McCaffrey comes in, no training camp, no nothing. Boom, 100 yards from scrimmage. Like, the dude is a freaking stud, man. He is an absolute stud. So good. I love watching him play football. That fingertip catch he made on that Brock throw, that's a really hard freaking catch, man. Really hard. Guy's awesome, and I love him. Ooh, looks like we got some audio of Tabor Pepper. Let's take a listen to Tabor Pepper after the game.
What said that sort of sparked all that?
Just lock, he was telling them to lock in, and we know what our job is, and we got us. It's hard being a specialist. It's sometimes it's feast or famine, and as a young developing specialist like Jake is, the best like mental exercise you can have. I mean, I don't know how much better it gets than missing 3 straight and having to step up and hit a almost 50-yard game winner. So I'm super proud of Jake. I'm sorry. I mean, super happy. When I go out there, it's my job to snap a perfect ball, and I feel like he's going to make it every single time we go out there. So I have all the faith in the world in Jake.
Is there anything that went wrong with the misses at all, or not?
Just, I mean, no excuses. It's a windy stadium. Sometimes the wind blows hard. Sometimes it's soft. Sometimes really no excuses. It's our job to make them every time.
Yeah, there you go. No excuses. It's a windy stadium. You can't say no excuses and then immediately follow it up with an excuse. What are we doing here, Tabor Pepper? Look, you heard it right from Tabor Pepper's mouth. All Deebo said was lock in. You know what, Tabor Pepper? Shut up. You should have locked in. Oh, we know what our job is. Well, then why aren't you doing it, right? Like, I have no problem with Deebo Samuel going over and saying something to Jake Moody. None whatsoever. The more I hear about this, I'm totally on Team Deebo. Totally on Team Deebo. Dawn Williams said you should be holding him accountable before anybody else. I'm on Team Deebo, man. Now, how he reacted to Tabor Pepper, I don't love that. But, like, dude, if you're Deebo, shut up, Tabor Pepper. Like, you don't get to tell me to go away. Like, no. And you know, maybe Tabor did that because he wanted Jake Moody to see him defending him. And that's all fine, too. Like I said, shake hands, call it a day, and everything's fine. Everything is fine. Except for the kicking, which, of course, has to get a hell of a lot better. But a win is a win is a win. Niners get the win, 23-20. They move to 5-4 on the season. I have not even seen, like I said, I've been so caught in, okay, Arizona is 5-4 also, and they are beating the Jets right now. So, look, you handled your business today, 49ers. Was it perfect? No, but you walked away with a win. Would you rather the 49ers offense put up 45 points, but they lost? Like, no. It was a gritty, grimy win. And this team could use a few more of those. So there you go. Please, please, please like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it. There's more than 1,200 people watching. Like I said, if you're new to the channel, give us a chance. We're live every single weekday, and after every 49ers game, we have big-name guests on the show. Mina Kimes, Kay Adams, Mike Florio, all sorts of big-name guests from around the sports media world. We do a 5-minute news update every weekday morning with interview clips and clips from press conferences and injury reports, everything you need to know to get you up to date. I put our 49ers coverage up against anybody's out there, anybody's on the planet. Give us a chance. I promise we will continue to earn your time. Thank you so much to everybody that gave a super chat. I can't tell you how much it means to me, especially on a solo show. Those really, really help me. Thank you. Go damn Niners. Enjoy the win. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday night, and we'll talk tomorrow.